Hello, my name is Darby Casey. All throughout the country, parents are teaching their children that violence is acceptable when someone performs an unfavorable behavior. Most of these parents, however, do not know that this is a lesson they are teaching their children. Corporal punishment is the use of physical pain in response to a behavior that is deemed inappropriate. Currently, domestic corporal punishment, or corporal punishment in the home, is legal in all 50 states. Corporal punishment is inhumane and therefore should be banned across the United States. In my speech, I will discuss how corporal punishment can lead to abuse, how it can damage the relationship between parent and child, how it can cause a child to become more violent and leave a child with mental disorders, and how there are much more humane alternatives to corporal punishment. With the definition being so hazy, it's hard to tell where corporal punishment ends and where abuse begins. In September of 2014, NFL running back Adrian Peterson was indicted for charges of reckless and negligent injury to a child. Peterson was accused of beating his 4-year-old son with a tree branch, causing severe welts and bleeding all over the child's body. These pictures were taken 4 days after the incident occurred. Incidents like these occur every day throughout the United States, but are not seen as abuse. They are seen as discipline. With abuse laws being vague and varying from state to state, most offices look at whether abuse charges should be filed on a case-by-case basis. Jennifer Lawson, a research professor at Duke University's Center for Child and Family Policy, claims that social workers typically rule corporal punishment abuse only if it leaves a mark that lasts more than 24 hours. Although corporal punishment does not always leave children with physical injuries, it can damage their self-esteem and leave them with mental and emotional scars that can last a lifetime. Many psychological studies have found that corporal punishment, especially when started at a young age, hinders the development of trust and security in parent-child relationships. It can also cause children not to come forward about their wrongdoings out of fear of being hit. These children usually end up angry with their parents for spanking them instead of reflecting on what they did wrong. Corporal punishment also teaches a child that those that love you will hurt you and may end up in abusive relationships later on in life. Many parents that use corporal punishment are not in control of their own anger, which causes them to lash out at their children. How can parents who are not able to control their own emotions teach their children about discipline? A contradictory lesson that corporal punishment teaches children is that violence is an acceptable way of solving problems. It causes children to think, if it is okay for my parents to hit me when they're angry at me, then it is okay for me to hit others when I am angry at them. Spanking teaches children that hitting is an appropriate response when angry and causes them not to learn other constructive ways of solving differences. Corporal punishment also teaches children that it is okay for a bigger person to hit a smaller person. This may cause children to become aggressive with their peers and may even turn them into bullies. Violent behavior is learned, and when children see their parents exhibiting violent behavior, it is a natural reaction to want to imitate them. Ironically, children who receive corporal punishment as a form of discipline for an unfavorable behavior usually end up demonstrating more unfavorable behaviors in the long run. Corporal punishment pushes children to continue the cycle of abuse. Not only can corporal punishment cause children to become violent, it can also lower self-esteem and bring about mental problems. A 2009 study found that children who received frequent corporal punishment had less gray matter in certain areas of the prefrontal cortex that have been linked to depression, addiction, and other mental health disorders. The lowered self-esteem in children that receive corporal punishment can also lead to poor academic performance, difficulty concentrating, lack of resiliency, and poor social skills. Sadly, because physical problems are more visible than mental and emotional problems, these horrible effects of corporal punishment are often ignored and left untreated. With corporal punishment doing much more harm than good, I question as to why it has not been banned in the U.S., especially considering there are much more humane alternatives of disciplining children. Rewarding a child's positive behavior has proven to be much more effective than punishing negative behavior. Praising a child for doing something right will cause them to repeat the behavior. Discussing different ways to deal with problems has also had a positive effect on teaching children discipline. Children are much more willing to comply to parents' rules when they have a say in the matter. It is important to establish clear rules with children in advance so they know what is expected of them and what is considered acceptable behavior. It is also important to set consequences for breaking these rules. Instead of using physical punishment, parents can take away certain privileges, such as television or computer use. It is important to remember that for any type of discipline to work, it must be imposed immediately after the misbehavior. Punishment should not be frequent, but they should be consistent. Before I conclude, let me summarize my main points. Corporal punishment does much more harm than good, leading to abuse, negatively affecting parent-child relationships, causing children to become more violent, and leading to mental health problems. Considering these factors, it only makes sense for corporal punishment to be outlawed, especially keeping in mind that there are much more effective, healthier alternatives. To get rid of this issue, Americans first need to realize that corporal punishment is a huge problem. Every citizen can be helpful in abolishing corporal punishment simply by not spanking their children and by preaching the alternatives. No one should ever believe that he or she is too small or unimportant to make a difference. Thank you.